Hello, this is Dr. Live with New Insight, and thank you for joining me in another video. The title of today's video is When We Compare. I would like to preface this video by stating the following. We all compare. However, that does not mean we do so with envy or jealousy. It doesn't mean we have the desire to compete. It doesn't mean that we feel inferior or inadequate, or that we're over-dependent on external validation. When we compare, we have to be careful. We must be very cautious with the thoughts, beliefs, assumptions, and conclusions we make as we're comparing. The way we end up feeling jealous, inadequate, or inferior, anxious, frustrated, and depressed is because when we compare, we formulate cognitive errors that tell us everyone and everything else looks bigger, brighter, better, more blessed, more happy, more successful, more secure, more fulfilled, and more put together than who we are and what we have. And it is these type of thoughts, beliefs, and assumptions that are representative of thinking errors known as cognitive distortions. And these type of thoughts, beliefs, and assumptions can also be based on projecting our own insecurities, trauma, and vulnerabilities that we may be self-conscious of. When we compare, we have to learn to put things in the proper perspective. And again, as I always say, not allow feelings to take the lead, to take the wheel and be the driver of what we think, believe, and how we act. Always separate facts from feelings, because you can feel a certain way and it not be based on fact or truth. For example, you might feel like someone is smarter, more attractive, or more loved. That doesn't mean that they are. You might feel like a failure. That doesn't mean that you are. You may feel like someone doesn't like you. That doesn't mean that they don't. You have to go further and beyond the feelings and gather the facts and truth of the matter. Facts and truth. And even if the facts support or confirm your feelings, the next thing to do is make sure that you still frame or process it in a not self-defeating way. You want to process it in the most healthy and helpful way possible. So, for example, even if a person does have more, having more in quantity or having what is deemed more popular or better by the status quo is not a reflection of your value or worth. However, family, culture, and society as a whole can lead us to believe that it is, because we have allowed others to define our value and our worth and what is more attractive, what is more successful, and so on. As a result, we look to external for approval and validation. And if we don't receive it or receive it adequately or properly, this is when we start to feel less than or depressed, anxious, doubtful, less confident, and less secure. So what do? It's easy to say, stop comparing and stop relying on others for external validation, but this is unrealistic. We all see what we see, we all compare, and we all rely on external validation to a certain extent. But do so in the proper perspective. Do so without anger or jealousy or deeming yourself as less than. Do so with the mind frame that each of us have strengths, weaknesses. We each have different knowledge, skills, talents, and experiences, supports, resources, and opportunities. And someone will always have something that you don't. And you'll always have something that someone else doesn't have. None of this takes away from your value or worth or theirs. And we have to start separating the two. And if someone else deems it to be better, your attitude should be, so what? Oh well, that's great. That's good for them. You should also ask, what does that have to do with me? What another person has or does has no bearing on my life, my value, or worth. And even if I feel a way, I understand that we all have differences, and it is what it is. I need to focus less on comparisons and why someone has this or that, and more on my life, my situation, and doing what I can to reach my own goals. And if I don't have goals, I need to start figuring out my goals and my purpose. And all of this that I just said can also be used as your affirmations or positive self-talk. If you compare, always strive to have a growth mindset and learn from others. Be willing to change and improve yourself in the areas where it's needed, and stay in your own lane. Get more focused on you, your life, and directing your steps, and less focused on why someone has something you don't. Understand that this line of thinking is only a distraction as well as self-defeating. While you're busy complaining, being angry or jealous, or questioning why someone has something you don't, and making comparisons, time is still ticking. It doesn't stop for you to catch up or figure things out. And this very thought can be stressful, but it should also add urgency for you to make better use of your time by getting your mind right and retraining your brain to correct faulty thinking. Start looking at your life, what's in your control to manage, what you can and cannot do. Figure out your own purpose, set your own goals, and start investing in your own self. But understand, all of this requires sacrifice, changing bad habits, changing faulty thinking, and making different decisions. So be willing and ready to do the work as well. If not, accept where you are, build happiness and peace where you are instead of feeling sorry for yourself or feeling less than or being hyper-focused on comparing yourself to others. So when you do compare, always put things in the proper perspective. Here are some quotes to think about as it relates to comparisons and external validation. You are not falling behind. You're just on a different path. Their success isn't your failure. You're comparing your behind the scenes to someone else's highlight reel. I also like to say you're comparing their real, R-E-E-L, to your real, R-E-A-L. No amount of likes can replace real, R-E-A-L, self-acceptance. And lastly, you don't need to prove your worth. You just need to remember it. Please remember these quotes. I hope this helps. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in another video. Please be sure to like, comment, and subscribe. Hit the bell notification and share with family, friends, and others.